We're in. Oh, Derek's here. Let's go ahead and do perfect timing. What's up, Derek?
Right
What's
on
going
time.
on?
Oh,
How are
Derek, I almost wore that same shirt.
You
What?
didn't blend it in.
Can't see me.
I'll on that note, I like your hair. It's not as blonde anymore.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
How was y'all's day? How was the meeting? I heard I missed an eventful meeting.
You did. We got some amazing things that are in the works. We can't tell anybody about those. We can't tell the general public about the surprises that are coming up. But social media will definitely see something within the next 7 days. Preferably be ready for next Tuesday or Thursday. One of those 2 days.
Okay.
There's something exciting that's going to hit social media that some people are not going to want to miss. I can't say much. Can't say much more though.
yeah.
I won't give it away. I've seen the photos. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm ready for the memes. I'm ready for the TikTok, the dances, everything. This is going to be good.
Yeah. So on that note, if you're watching this, you can see our Instagram names. Go ahead and follow us so you can keep up on that. And if you're listening, I'm Mike Brand Real Estate, Andrea Sanchez TX Realtor, and then Derek Crane RE. You can find us all. We're all linked on all the Move Me to Texas pages as well. So, drop a follow, maybe a comment or a like. I don't know how these things work.
Give us some ideas for some TikTok dances, maybe.
Yeah, give them ideas for TikTok dances.
Give Mike some ideas. Well, so we've learned. So Mike had this podcast with one of our teammates, Annika, that they were doing, and Annika was definitely the brains, and Mike was the beauty of the operation, or vice versa, maybe. But Annika would find the best TikToks and just tell Mike to do them, and he did them, and they were amazing.
That's what I'm told. I just did what I was told in front of the camera. I still don't understand them. I've never even had a TikTok before. I've never downloaded the app. I don't know anything about it, so I don't understand half the things that are going on with it.
But you did a good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Another reason to follow Mike on social media, you can find all of these TikToks on Mike's social media. So just scroll through and find them. There's some gems in there.
Scroll back in the reels. Shouldn't be that hard. I've been slacking on social media, if I'm honest. But on a more productive kind of note, Andrea and I were talking earlier that some of the news for Houston, Chevron's offering to pay for their staff to move to Houston because they're growing their focus on Texas. Let's see if I can share this in a second. So they have a Bay Area.
Oh, Mike froze. So Chevron has a Bay Area facility, which is about 35 miles east of San Francisco. And what they're doing is they're shifting into Texas, and they're offering to go ahead and pay for their employees to relocate to the Texas area voluntarily. That's big. So currently there are 2,000 employees at that facility that that they're going to discuss, with regarding making that move. In Houston alone, Chevron has about 8,000 employees. So Chevron is major out here in the Houston area.
Yeah.
Of those 8,000 employees, 6,000 of these employees work downtown, which is insane to me. Okay, so Mike is gone. It's me and you, Derek. We're the lone survivors. So yeah, 6,000 employees are currently in the Chevron facility in downtown Houston, which if you're familiar with downtown Houston, the Chevron building, it's one of the most popular buildings downtown.
And you're like, where are they parking at is where I need to know.
The parking garages, there you go. Mike's back. The parking garages stay busy. They stay full. I used to work downtown before I made the transition to real estate, and I hated parking downtown. it was the worst. So I would park downtown maybe 2 times a week. Fridays for sure, because I wanted to leave work early on Fridays, just ditch out of there, and sometimes maybe Wednesday or so if I had something going on after work. But other than that, I would take the Metro Park and Ride, which is really convenient. They have them all over the outskirts of the Houston area. I don't think there's any inside the loop. There may be, but I don't think there are many inside the loop. But definitely in the suburban areas, the park and rides are a big deal.
I've never been on a park and ride here since I've been here.
Yeah, it's very affordable. When you think about what you're spending on parking and what you're spending on gas, especially now, to pay $30 a week, $40 a week, maybe $50 a week, just depending. I don't know what it is now, but if it's similar, it makes the most sense. And these buses run like clockwork. They run so quick. There were some buses that used to run out here to the Cypress area. They used to run like every 5 minutes.
Oh,
So
wow.
very quick, very convenient. I loved it. And these were the nice buses. These are not, the standard metro buses that people think about, like just regular buses. These were nice upgraded buses with the cushion seats and the air conditioning and the personal air conditioning. But they were really, really nice.
So it's like the United buses, not the Spirit Airlines buses.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah. Like no seats in these. Everyone stands up.
Everybody,
you got to bring your own lawn chair.
But yeah, so that's a big move. I mean, for Chevron to be moving that many, trying to move that many employees to the Houston region just shows you how much not only Houston, but just Texas is growing population wise. Major companies are coming down here. We always talk about it, the Tesla facility that's, coming to the Austin area up to 90. We've got Chevron, so many major companies. And it also brings up the question that we get a lot. How's the job market? I mean, that's the answer right there. That's the answer.
Well, and you got to think, just I'm looking at the ad now, or the article now. It's a 92-acre campus that they have in the Bay Area. And if they're getting ready to sell that, like, they're going to make a pretty penny. So paying these 2,000 employees to move isn't going to make a dent in their pocket. And they're probably still going to have money left over to maybe even build something here, which I've heard rumors about something like that happening on the north side of town for some time now. I haven't seen anything set in motion, but I know that's been the rumor for a while.
Yep, I've heard those rumors quite a bit too. Just waiting to see if it happens. You never know.
Yeah.
One day
we'll being out when you talk to people and how like some people are like, yeah, I'm from Houston, but then you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I'm from Missouri and all the different spots. And then I always ask people like, hey, how'd you end up here? Some would be like, yeah, my husband, my wife, or I moved here and never left. Or I even talked to some that were like, they came because they did a lot of the food and heard about the food here in Austin and Dallas and never left.
Yeah. So that brings up a good point. We got a lot of questions last week when you joined us, Derek. People don't realize that our team consists of native Houstonians, people that have relocated. We've got so many different people from different backgrounds on our team. And we got a lot of great feedback having somebody here that's relocated from a different state to Houston and talking more about that transition. So that's why we asked you to join us again. We wanted to talk a little bit more about that move. And, we talked about why you moved to the Houston area and some of your favorite things, but I wanted to talk maybe a little bit more about how that move looked for you. What were some of the struggles from moving from one state to the next? What would you change, or what advice could you give to somebody who's making a cross-country move?
The biggest thing for me, one was, I don't know if this is a plug for them or not, but going like to the DMV, because I was still active duty. So then once here, I got a Texas driver license. That was like an all-day thing, like, and getting your vehicle registered, then going to the DMV. Mm-hmm. And it's like that, hey, I'm number 300. Okay, Number five. So that
So
Yeah.
when you did that, did you just go to the DMV and tell them, hey, I'm here, I need to get a license? Or did you sign up online? Like, how did that process look for you?
I went online. I went online first, pulled all my stuff, and then that was back in 2012. So that's when like there was a Pearland like satellite center. I
Mhm.
went there, it was packed. And then, I had all my paperwork, but then that's when they were like, hey, you need to think either had to get my driver's license first or car registered first. So it was one or the other. So getting that registered. And so it was like an all day thing. And it's like, man.
Yeah.
And then all this
You got to get your license first, and then you got to go. But that's at the DMV. But if you got to get like a title transfer for a vehicle, you got to go to the tax
that's what
office.
I had to do. That's what I had to do.
But you got to go to the tax office for the county that you live in. You can't go to a different county because they won't handle that, which, I've tried that in the past where, I know Waller County is 30 minutes away, but I also know Harris County, where I live in, all the tax offices are a little bit closer, but Waller County has less traffic. Drove the 30 minutes up there, and they're like, oh, yeah, we can't help you. Sorry.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
They don't make it easy for you. There's not a lot of good information online. So,
and then the biggest transition, too, was the school districts, how you can be a block. Like you can live on one side of the block and your kids go to one school, and then another side, their friends go simply because of the way everything's divided up. And they're sticklers. They were like, nope.
Yeah, the schools are very particular. I've had that problem before too, where we had a school, we were trying to get my daughter registered in school, and the school was 5 minutes away from the house. And we were zoned to a school that was 15 minutes away from the house. Like, no, you're at the wrong place. Well, we're 5 minutes away. And they're like, no, you have to go, based on the school district, you have to go to this school. And it just made zero sense to me. That was an issue that we had when we moved to a different district. So that was
the UIL codes, and
that was tough. So I can just imagine. And then schools are so different here in Texas versus other states. They've got so many different rules. So just, hearing about the different things that you need to get your kid registered in school. You've got to have, you've got to have the shot records that are up to date. You've got to have, that's the big one, shot records. They have to be up to date. You have to have the mandatory vaccines in order to register the kids. The other thing that I've come across a lot with my clients is my clients are preparing to buy a house. School's going to start in, say, 2 weeks, right? But they're scheduled to close in 3 weeks. They can't register their kids for school until they've actually closed on the house. Yeah. And that sometimes can be a hurdle I'm trying to overcome. Some school districts I've noticed are a little bit easier to work with when it comes to things like that. There's certain documents you can give them, but if you don't own this house yet, or you haven't moved to this rental yet, or your apartment lease hasn't started yet, and you don't have the documents, forget it. You're going to have to wait.
Yeah. They are sticklers on that. Like, we need to see with your name and address on the bill. And so that was kind of frustrating at first. Yeah. Because we moved here in August. So I think it was like August 3rd.
Here's a big one. Electricity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did that experience go?
That was, well, going from an apartment, it wasn't too bad. Then when we moved from the apartment to the house, I mean, that was how much, go to grocery store. Hey, how much you pay for this? Oh, you can use these people. You can use these people. And you're like, how many different people are they? I can save you this amount. I can save you this. All I need is your information and we'll transfer it. And you're like, man.
So for those who don't
know. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. a lot of people, you touched on it, Mike. That's it. You didn't even know that that was a thing. So a
Nope.
lot of people, for those who don't know, in most parts of the Houston area, you can choose who your electricity provider is. So you have to choose a company who's going to bill you for your power usage, pretty much. And trying to find out which one is best is you won't figure it out.
Mhm.
Everything is different. Some electric companies are going to end up charging you a better rate if you use less electricity. Some are going to charge you a better rate if you use more electricity. Some will charge you a better rate if you use electricity more during the day versus at night, or vice versa. You can get all these crazy incentives. It's hard to find out like which
Yep.
electric plan is best.
And, from being here my whole life and, just knowing with my parents and all that and like how they've done that, I never knew that was a thing in other places where you didn't get to choose your power company. I thought it was like, okay, it's just across the board. But from what I've learned, as I've had more people moving to Houston that I'm working with, like they're blown away that they have to pick. One resource that I've used, I'm sure you've used it too, is powertochoose.org.
Yep.
So I've used them. See if I can share my screen right now without making things crash. I've definitely directed a lot of my clients to them. So it's powertochoose.org. You literally, I typed in my zip code and I can click view results. And there are 109 companies that provide power to my area, to that zip code. And you can go through here and see the pricing details, $99 cancellation fee or $300 cancellation fee, what their price per kilowatt hour is, or per 1,000 kilowatt hours. So it's all pretty comparable, but then they've got their ratings and things like that.
Yep. And what makes it tough too is that even though you're looking at, like, for example, 15.6 cents per kilowatt hour and 15.8 cents per kilowatt hour, that's based on 1,000 kilowatt hours of usage on your bill. The average household is going to use way more than that. So you'll probably have to adjust this based on what your estimated usage would be. The other thing too is some of these are variable rates, meaning 1 month your energy charge and your price per kilowatt hour could be 15.6 cents. The next month it could be 25 cents a kilowatt hour. You have to think about, are you locking in your electricity rate? And when I say locking in your rate, you're locking in the price per kilowatt hour, not the bill amount. You can lock in your rate, or if the rates are high right now, don't lock in that rate. You might be able to find something cheaper and skip companies. 1 month go with this company, another one try different. You can choose different companies, but it's very hard. It's very confusing and overwhelming.
It is.
It's very confusing and overwhelming. I happen to know a lot about this because that was my background, was retail energy. So I did that for several years. Retail energy, it's very hard to explain it in a way that people understand. It's very hard to explain this, but to sum it up, there are so many light companies, it gets overwhelming. If you're in the greater Houston area, you can choose whatever company with. Power to Choose is a great, it's a great tool. If you are in, say, Conroe, for example, you can't choose your electric provider. So there are areas outside of greater Houston that are in regulated areas, which mean you can't choose the provider you go with. You've got one utility company, one electric company, which is Entergy, for example, and that's it. You can't choose your rate. You can't choose anything. What they give you is what they give you, and that's it.
That's how it is. A lot up north is pretty much, hey, this is what it is. This is the places. And here you go to the grocery store and they're like, hey, how much do you pay per? And then they'll ask you questions about transfer fees and and you're like, I just came to get some eggs and some milk. But now I think now I think I can get a better deal than I'm paying now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and while we're on that note of utilities, and maybe I just don't know, are mud districts a thing in other states?
I never heard of that, like the MUDs who got here. Like I didn't know what that was, and then when it was explained to me at first, it was pretty much like hey, this is because there was nothing here, and now they're bringing in water from somewhere where else, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
Yeah. So for
You're like,
those that don't know, a mud district, I guess it's kind of redundant to say mud district. It's the municipal utility district. And Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand is that it's basically a big grant made for the district of a certain number of millions of dollars or whatever it is to set up this infrastructure for this community. So when you buy a home within a mud district, there's a mud notice that basically tells you how much is on that loan still, and you get taxed for that until it gets paid down. So eventually, over time, you won't have to pay into that mud district, but they are typically who provide the water services for those areas.
Yep. And this is part of the reason why, because again, they're taxes that are passed down to the homeowners. So this is part of the reason why you'll see certain areas of Houston and the suburbs, especially, the suburbs, you're going to see certain suburbs where the taxes are so much higher than others. So, for example, Katy is a one. They've got high taxes. One, they're paying off that football stadium they built, but also those taxes, those mud taxes are a big thing because they had to build this infrastructure when they started building all these new communities. That's a big part of it. I know quite a few areas in Pearland have higher mud taxes.
yeah.
We're seeing it in Conroe now because Conroe is growing so quickly. The Conroe area has different neighborhoods have higher mud taxes in Conroe. Any place that again, more of the suburbs, but any place that you're going to see these newer communities, there's a cost to build these communities and there's a cost for the infrastructure, and all of this is passed along. So all the homeowners are paying the price for that. It's part of the price they're going to pay to live in those areas.
And when you see the signs that say, hey, no mud taxes for like home builders, and you'll see the signs and you're like, okay.
Yeah. And as I was looking through articles to try to find some topics for tonight's broadcast, I did see that there is a new master plan community breaking ground in Fort Bend County. It's going to be I think it said 950-ish acres. So that's going to be pretty huge. So I'd venture to guess that the tax rate might go up in those areas if you're living in Fort Bend County, way south 59.
Yep.
Maybe something to look into. I don't know.
Yeah. But if they build it, they will come. And Chevron is trying to bring their employees down here, so we need room for them and they need houses. So
yeah, especially if they're going to build a new campus too. I mean, again, that's all hearsay, but there's the Chevron employees, but then there's also the employees of Chevron's campus that are keeping up the facilities, and then builders and construction and all that. So plenty of opportunities to be had here.
Oh, yeah. What's y'all's thoughts on the zoning, like for here? That was one of the big things here, like moving from up north.
I'll let Mike take that one.
I think it's interesting. Houston's got very, very, very relaxed zoning laws, to put it kindly. So you might be going through a neighborhood and you'll see, brand new $1 million home, and then the lot next door either empty or a shack that was built in the 20s. And then 2 lots down from that, you might have a tire store.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It keeps things fresh, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. It's a good way to break up and not have all the cookie cutter stuff. I definitely see the pros and cons to it, right? Having kind of more dilapidated older homes might not give you the full value of that $1 million home. There's pros and cons to each.
If you don't like the zoning, though, you can always go to an HOA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you might go from one extreme to the next, but hey.
Yeah. And I don't know if we talked about HOAs last week or not, but they're not all built the same. HOAs do get a bad rap, and I understand it. I bought this house. Why do I have somebody trying to control whatever, but at the end of the day, they are there to protect your interest, right?
Yep.
You put money into that house. You want that value to stay there. And that HOA is there in place to protect that value. So does it matter so much that, you know, your trash can was out for an extra day? Probably not. That's not going to affect the value. So, you know, maybe there can be some reform within HOAs, but HOAs have themselves, I don't think, are all that bad.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have these neighborhoods that have 500, 600 houses in them, 2 pools, a water park, and like everything you can ever imagine. You're like, I never need to leave the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Mine cuts my lawn, and I hate doing yard work. So,
yeah.
Oh wow.
Townhouse community.
HOAs are, yeah. I mean, I personally, I don't mind. We live in a community with an HOA. We have all the homes look the same. We like Stepford Wives, if anybody knows that movie, where all the homes look the same. They do, but I mean, you know, it looks nice. It's nice coming home after seeing properties all day in all different areas of the city, you know, in the city, outside of the city, and there's so much variation, and sometimes they're not as desirable. And coming home to a community where everything is nice and well manicured and taken care of, and you know, all the neighbors are taking pride in their homes. It's nice to come home to that sometimes. Now, do I like it when I see the HOA truck, that gray Nissan, driving around a couple of times a week taking photos of people's houses? I don't. I get a little defensive and worried that they're going to find a reason to come complain and knock at my door. But at the end of the day, I'm still happy that they're out there and just helping us make sure that our neighborhood retains value.
Especially when they have the HOA parties. Different thing.
I see our neighborhood doesn't have those. We've got, and again, our HOA is, you know, we're not paying $1,000 annual HOA. We're only paying like $600 a year.
Okay.
But, you know, we don't have all the amenities. We don't have a community pool in our neighborhood, but a lot of us have private pools.
Yeah.
You know, we have the parks, though. We have the community parks. We have the dog parks. We've got a fishing lake. Like, we've got different things in our neighborhood to kind of make up for that lack of a swimming pool. But yeah, I mean, it's still, they're there. I don't mind them too much. The community parties, I may or may not be hosting a community party in the coming future for all my neighbors. That might be something that's in the works. So we'll see about that and see if the HOA doesn't put a stop to it.
I don't think I've ever heard of HOA parties. The neighborhood I grew up in had an HOA, and it was terrible. My mom joined the board to try to make things better, and then she hated it so much internally that she quit. And we ended up moving. So
I can see that.
you can see that because you know HOAs, or because you've met my mom?
Both. Both of those. I can see that happening. Oh.
Yeah. Like, for instance, we had a community pool. It was great. They cleaned it one summer. It was the summer of 2005, because the class of 2005, while it was emptied, they all broke in and were like riding their bikes in it and skating or wherever, had a little party, and they ran away from the cops. So after that, they didn't just ban people from the pool. They completely got rid of the pool. They filled it in with dirt.
Wow.
Like, that's solving the problem, you know, like, so Woodland Trails HOA, that's one of the ones I'm not a big fan of, but you know, in the past.
Don't forget Town Lake HOA. Mike doesn't have the best experiences with HOAs in the past.
I'm over here fighting for HOAs too. I'm like, hey, they're not all bad, but here I am on a lot of people's shit list.
That's okay. That's how you get remembered.
Unfortunately, they remember me. They took a photo of my license plate and my driver's license and said, don't come back.
Oh, that was what's the name incident?
That was Town Lake, yeah, paddleboarding. I'm a hardened criminal trying to enjoy the public waterway that's not public.
Visiting his friend. They were enjoying themselves on the lake, and here comes the patrol.
I love authority. It's my favorite. It's great.
But yeah, HOAs, they're you've got some HOAs that are definitely watching everything that you do, which
Yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I don't want to live like that. Like I want to be able to have some freedom here and there and, enjoy myself. And then you've got others that are definitely more lax. Like some of these HOAs, they don't allow parking on the street, but they don't enforce it. So the streets are lined with cars, even though
Yeah.
technically they're not supposed to be there. And it just, it doesn't help the neighborhood. It doesn't help homes retain value. They sell for
Yeah.
a little bit less than, the neighborhood across the street. But HOAs, like I said, they're good and bad. I don't mind too much. Have you had any incidents with your HOA at all, Derek?
Well, the first couple years I lived here was the whole your grass, which it wasn't. Here 1 minute it's raining, next minute it's not, and then hey, you need to cut your grass. Well, if it would stop raining, I would cut it, but
Yeah,
if it would stop raining, I would cut it, and then hey, you left your garbage can needs to go, like, not be visible instead of you having it on the side of the house, and you're like you know what, I'm gonna leave it there. Hey, this is your second warning. Yeah.
I think one of my neighbors got that same warning a few times, and they didn't want to put the trash can in the backyard or put it in the garage, so they just left it where it was, and they built like a 4-foot long fence, just enough to cover the trash cans, so you couldn't see it from the street.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, hey, did you get that approved?
Yeah. Hey, can you see the trash can? How about no? Shut the hell up.
There they come driving around in their little silver gray Nissan with their camera out, ready to take some photos.
Like, yep. Or, hey, you can't be parked on the street for more than 3 or 4 days.
So
Yeah. I can't wait to get that letter for my truck that I'm trying to sell. I try to drive it every couple of days just to show them that it moves and it's not an abandoned vehicle.
Oh my gosh. All right. What else? What else has been an experience when it comes to moving to Texas?
What else? Other than, let's see, DMV, moving, shopping, tolls, easy tag. Well, easy tag versus when I was active duty, if you had your military ID, you didn't have to pay tolls. But then there was those times where Google Maps or Apple Maps wasn't refined enough to know Houston roads. So when it says make a right, you're like, I'm making a right on this toll road or this frontage road.
Yeah, and sometimes there's not any feeder roads on those toll roads.
Yeah. Or you Google where you have to go and you're like, oh, it's only 16 miles. That's not that far. And then it's like 52 minutes.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed with HAR, so little insight into a realtor's world. So we can go through HAR and we can see all the homes that you want to see. And then we can actually click all of them, and HAR will give us a map and driving directions. So we can follow that in the most efficient way. I've learned that HAR definitely doesn't care whether it's a toll road or not. It'll only give you the fastest direction. So I've gotten stuck on 99 more than a few times thanks to HAR's deal. But you know what? It's fine. At that point, I was driving my truck. Here's a little pro tip. I'm not telling people to do this, actually. But here's what I did. I had my bike rack on the back that covered my license plate. And then my front license plate was in my windshield. And I could just, move it and remove it as I needed. I'm not saying you should do it.
Do you remember, it was a few years back, and Derek, you might remember this. There was a person who they caught that kept going through the toll booth, and he had a flipper on his license plate. Do y'all remember that?
Yep.
And no, but I know you can buy those on eBay.
I don't know where you can buy those items, but there was a news story a while back. I don't remember how long ago this was, but this guy got caught in the middle of going through the toll lane. As it was flipping, it got stuck or something. I don't remember exactly what happened.
I think it's like 2014, maybe.
It was a while back. I mean, it's been a little while, but it got caught, and they caught him in the act. And then I guess I believe half of what the news tells me, but I think they said that they went back and realized how much he had been going through these toll booths. And
I know back probably like 20 years ago now, when my mom was commuting into downtown and I would ride in the HOV lane with her, I know there was a big problem back then of people putting like dolls in the passenger seat so that they could ride through the HOV lane. And that became a big story for a while there.
Yeah. I do remember that, when there was a few athletes that had got in trouble a couple years back because of the tolls.
Which I don't even understand why tolls exist. Like, do our tax dollars not pay enough for the roads? We just talked about how high the property tax is. Where's that going?
Yeah.
I gave Fort Bend, was it Fort Bend? I don't know. Whoever this toll authority was, I told them that
it was Fort Bend. Did you go to CVS?
No, I ended up calling them today, and I was like, "Hey, I've been trying to pay this for a week, and your website doesn't work. So what do I do?" And then I paid over the phone.
Was there fees added to it, or was it because remember when?
I don't know.
You would do it, and then you wouldn't get the bill for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. The entire thing is a scam in my eyes. So what any dollar they get from me is too many dollars, you know?
But I love convenience.
Yeah.
I will happily pay to go on, because I'm on 99 quite a bit. I will happily pay to go 99 to get up to the Woodlands area from Cypress. Then going through the back roads, Montgomery County, Spring.
They're great. Toll roads are great. Like the Beltway is great until you get stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
Because at least me in my head, I'm like, man, I am paying to sit in traffic right now, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Yep.
So
like, I can do this on any other road.
What I don't like, though, is that section of the Grand Parkway at Cinco Ranch.
Dude, yeah.
That is the worst. They need to initiate tolls on that section. Any time of day, you're stopped. It doesn't matter, morning, afternoon, evening, you are stopped for a period of time just trying to get through that headache in Cinco Ranch in 99.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for sure.
What are some of the areas that you guys dislike when it comes to traffic in Houston? Like
610 at the Galleria. It's the gates of hell. I'm fully convinced.
Always construction, never fails. TxDOT is always doing something in that area. Okay.
Yeah. Certain parts of Westheimer where there's, I don't know if you call them potholes or speed bumps. I think they started off as potholes and then they make bumps to fix it.
You getting attacked by a bear? What is that?
They are watering the grass in front of my house, and they sprayed my window.
You sure they weren't trying to water the wall behind you?
Self-watering.
Okay.
Look, it's even starting to bald a little bit. Needs, we're gonna fertilize it later. Just watch.
You need a neon sign. That's what you need, the neon sign.
I need the real sign behind me now. No.
Yeah.
No. All right. I don't know if I would get a neon sign, what it would even say. I have an idea of what I would want something to say, but it might not be appropriate for podcasts or Zoom meetings or coaching calls or buyer's consultations. So I'll refrain. I don't even know what I would put behind me.
I would just do throwing the H's up. Just the H emoji.
H.
Well, I mean, I'm in the suburbs now, so I can't.
Burbs.
So far.
Hashtag Suburbs.
Hashtag burbs.
Burbs.
I might consider that.
Burb.
So one of the areas that I don't like to go back on traffic, 45 South near League City.
Yeah. Construction is real bad there right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's been that way for 10 years, well, 12 years now, maybe, at least.
Or 45 South, I guess 45 coming north, but on the south side of 610.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
4 different exits all at one time.
Yep. And it's still, yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the merging, that was the thing. The merging here. And everybody has like, oh, that's the thing too. They're like, when I first got here, if you use your turn signal, they know you're not from Houston. Like, he must be visiting. He's using his turn signal.
That is true.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's debatable. It's debatable. I use turn signals sometimes.
When you're in the lane, you're like, I'm in the lane. Oh, I'm putting my turn signal on. Oh, yeah.
Well, because, yeah, there's definitely times where you put your turn signal on and then people will speed up to not let you in. I use it when it affects other people. Like if I'm turning off of a road into a parking lot and I see somebody's pulling out of the same parking lot, I'll turn my signal on to let them know, like, hey, you're clear. I'm not going to hit you. Stuff like that. But, yeah, if I'm switching lanes, it's fine. H-Town, swing and bang.
That's nice of you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
so
feel like if I'm going to stay on this call any longer, I'm just going to keep incriminating myself.
Now, all right, so drivers in Houston, let's talk about that because things are changing a lot too with Houston drivers. Houston wasn't known to have the best drivers to begin with. I'll say it. All right. I can say it. I'm going to take one for the team. So Houston was not known to have the best drivers to begin with. Okay. But over the past couple of years, it's getting a lot worse. We're seeing a lot of road rage incidents, a lot of road rage incidents, aggressive drivers, more than anything.
Yeah.
The big spindles that we talked about last week, different things that are happening. How was the adjustment, moving to Houston and dealing with the drivers in the Houston area?
Well, it was a quick adjustment because it was kind of like being like, I lived in DC for a minute too. So, but it's that whole, hey, they're not going to let you over. Like, okay, turn signal, count to 3. I'm getting over in 2. Well, I'm not saying do that, but it's, hey, no one's going to let you in. Or, you're in the parking lot of Walmart and you're like, oh, there's a parking space. Oh, too slow. You missed it because somebody beat you to it because it's like 55 in the Walmart parking lot.
On the other hand of that, I lived in Washington for a year, just south of the Seattle area, and born and raised in Houston, learned to drive in Houston. So you could make the argument that I'm an aggressive driver. I kind of use speed limits as a suggestion. But when I was in Seattle, I was driving and I was just cruising how I normally do. I'm like, man, I must be going so fast. I'm flying by everybody and I'm doing like 70. Like they really do the speed limit out there. They really are doing 60. I just can't. It blows my mind. 60. If I'm doing 60 on the freeway, something's wrong. Like the truck's about to explode. Like March of this year, I was doing 55 because I was overheating. But yeah, I don't know. Houston's so big, you can't afford to be going slow here, in my mind.
And you have to be an aggressive driver. I mean, you definitely have to be an aggressive driver because other people are not going to let you into that lane, or they're, you take the risk of somebody with the road rage getting mad because you're going the speed limit.
Yeah.
abiding by the law, and here you go. Here's the next person getting upset with you, and next thing you know, you're involved in something you don't necessarily want to be involved in. So you do have to be an aggressive driver to an extent in the Houston area. And then again too, with the construction, sometimes you won't know that there's construction or there's, a lane of the freeway that's blocked until you're literally 200 feet away.
Yep.
So sometimes you do have to be a little bit aggressive with the driving.
Or there's a refrigerator that fell off the back of someone's truck.
Yeah.
Right on 45. And
I was on 290 probably a month ago, and there was a whole trailer in the left lane, or one lane in from the left lane, and it was at night, and it was like it just detached from someone's, and it just stuck in the lane.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm glad I was paying attention, because I was maybe not doing the speed limit, but I was able to avoid it. It was just like, who's coming back for this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or people walking on the freeway, in the middle of the freeway, looking for cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you driving down the frontage road, the feeder roads, and there's somebody like walking in the middle of the street or walking across, or
It's too hot for that. You got to take that L. That phone is gone.
yeah. Yeah.
Matt Bittner's asking, has anybody heard anything new about the 45 expansion between Greenspoint and Midtown? I have not. Have you guys heard anything? Still, everything's still moving as planned. Yeah, I don't have an update on that one, Matt. I'm sorry.
But that's not where the ballpark is, where those loft apartments where they were going to tear them down, but they're not.
Well, so no, so that is, they're still doing that. They've got everybody out of the lofts at the ballpark. They've got everybody out, and they're still doing it. But I think there was a delay or something in knocking that building down. That was as of last week.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been
It's
a
also
delay.
59.
That's 59, but that's where 45 is going to expand over somehow. So all of that, it's going to connect to 45, and it's basically going right over the lofts at the ballpark.
I don't know. I'm looking at the North Houston Highway Improvement Project map, and I'm seeing a whole lot of literal red flags on this thing. So I wouldn't be on it being done anytime soon.
What do you mean? Let us see.
If I share my screen again, it's probably going to crash my deal. So it is HoustonTex.gov. It's the North. If you look up North Houston Highway Improvement Project, it'll be like the first link to pop up.
Matt said yes, that's the one. So yeah, right there, that's going through the lofts at the ballpark.
Yeah. There's a lot of red flags around there too. So wow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wish they would just finish the Galleria area traffic first and then move on to the next one. I mean, don't work on so many major freeways at once. We've only got a few of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
On that note, how long did it take them to complete 290?
20 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
I always made the joke when I was little that, you could probably see Houston from space as a big orange traffic cone.
Ooh, 290.
Well, guys, we're at the better part of an hour here, running on 50 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Killing it. As I say that, I get a notification. Yordan Alvarez hit a 2-run home run. Astros extended the lead over the Mets, 7-0 right now.
There we go.
So I think we might just end this on a positive note like that, unless y'all got more to talk about.
We don't.
Mm-mm.
Maybe we can always talk about traffic. That's never ending. But
I've got literal real estate fires to put out right now. You got to go back to. I'm tongue-tied. You have got. Go ahead, Michael.
I wasn't confused about what you said. I was more confused about what fires are actually happening in your real estate world. So.
Tons of them. My job is to make sure you don't see these fires.
Well, you're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It. It's always great to get insight from people that have come from all walks of life. So, yeah. Thank you guys for joining in. Thanks, Matt, for the questions. You've obviously been a follower because we had some questions last week, so we appreciate you.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt is one of our loyal followers. One day, we might just ask you to join in this podcast with us. Might have to pitch that to Katie and have you as a special guest. Let us know what you think about that, Matt. Might need to happen.
I got Katie's login, so we'll figure it out.
It'd be like a Selling Sunset Houston reality show. Come on.
Hashtag Burb Life.
Burb Life.
Right behind me in purple.
All right. Well, cool, guys. My dinner just showed up, so I'm going to go eat that. Y'all have a great one. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.